let's move over to the East for a minute. I think it's between Boston and Cleveland. I still think Boston is clearly just the best overall team, but just even taking a step back, and not just conceding it to Boston, but just I just think the landscape of the Eastern Conference continues to evolve and get more interesting. And we've had six champions over the last 6 years, first time that's ever happened. So there's going to be opportunities for different franchises to come up, and I mean I just think, like, again, the top two teams are known in the East. It's probably going to be Boston or Cleveland coming out. I would think Boston, but you
I
have
like
or
Detroit also.
well, I mean, listen, you've got Detroit, Orlando. You mentioned Chicago. I know you've covered there, and you've spent a lot of time, doing good coverage there with the Bulls. And I know they're in the rebuild, but you still got the Pacers. You've still got Milwaukee. Giannis is back to like dominant Giannis form. So if he's healthy, so I mean, how do you see the Eastern Conference? Like, is it still Boston's like for sure to lose? Like, I mean,
I wouldn't
what are you
say for sure
thinking
to
about
lose.
it?
I just think Boston gives me 2000s Lakers vibes that they were
Hmm.
just going through the motions in the regular season and turning up another notch in the playoffs. Obviously, you're looking at Jalen Brown's knee, and I'm sure he'll be fine. But you're looking at guys on that roster, and they were kind of, I don't want to say going through the motions, but playing their way through to get to the playoffs, and this is their time to shine. Cleveland could either really continue where they left off at in the playoffs versus the regular season, or are they going to be in a situation like the Atlanta Hawks some years ago where Cleveland ran through them? The jury is still out. I like Kenny Atkinson quite a bit, and I've you know stayed in touch with him throughout the course of the season, and have really seen how he and his team have executed without overexerting Donovan Mitchell.
Mm.
And so, not overexerting Donovan Mitchell, what does that mean in the playoffs?
Hmm.
Um, I think that Detroit um, has been consistent all year. I just think the national audience is not ready to accept that those guys are rolling at the speed they're rolling. I'm very worried about the Knicks in the playoffs against the Pistons, um,
I think that's
because
legit.
yeah, because as I said earlier in the program, that Timberwolves trade benefited, in my opinion, the Timberwolves more than it benefited the Knicks, because at the first half of the season, the Knicks, had some issues at times with Cat, if I'm not mistaken, and now they have those issues with Brunson. But I do feel like their bench at the guard position by committee has been productive. But that's still a team that Jalen Brunson has. Like we can collect us to death with no turnovers, but in the playoffs, I want to hear from Brunson. Um, Bridges, I think that trade at the draft benefited the Knicks when Brunson was down, but in the playoffs, you need Brunson and you need Bridges, you need all hands on deck. So that against Detroit, I am a little concerned with. Detroit's defense is crazy. Kate Cunningham is playing good basketball. Tobias Harris it, has been the gold that they needed that Philly missed out on. And I think that their head coach had the redeeming quality after being let go by the Cavaliers to go in and Bickerstaff and to kind of prove his worth, and he's done it.
I think it's interesting how, like, a couple years ago, it was really Boston, Miami, Milwaukee were kind of the big three of the East, and they were all still at large. And, Miami loses Jimmy Butler. They've kind of taken a step back. Milwaukee had a coaching change. They got Damian Lillard, but they've still had to really kind of just reinvent their identity and get themselves back. And Boston has now separated themselves. I just think the East is going to keep fluctuating because you've got good teams, you've got star players, you've got guys coming up the ranks, Paolo and Cade and Ty Halliburton. You still got Trey Young wallowing away in Atlanta. You still got
Those
LaMelo.
small market teams
Yeah.
are obliterating the perception that you have to be in Boston, Los Angeles, New York to do well. Everybody laughed at the Pistons in the offseason. Everybody laughed at Trajan Langdon and his front office world. And they've turned this thing around in Detroit. They've turned this thing around in Cleveland. And a lot of it in Cleveland last season was, the team stopped listening to Bickerstaff. I even think, next season you're going to see Charlotte try to pick it up some. They're still building.
Hmm.
Chicago is a notch above them because they're a playing team, but
Hmm.
you're seeing teams in the Midwest and the South play catch up with these Northeast and out West teams.
Yeah. And I'm high on LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. Say what you want about either of them, both of them. I'm high on both of their talents, and if they can put stuff together, man, they're going to be
And,
dangerous.
and Brandon likes it in Charlotte. I spent quite a bit of time in Charlotte this season, and Brandon, I asked Brandon had just got back from New York from surgery, and he was like, "You like New York?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I don't."
Hmm.
He said, "I'm a country boy." So,
I was
you
about to
know,
say where he
he,
probably from the South.
he Brandon Miller and I go back to a couple summers ago when he said something about Mike, and it went kind of viral, or it was about LeBron, it went kind of viral. And
Hmm.
but Brandon is about as honest. If he tell you something, he telling the truth. And
Mm.
I think both he and LaMelo Ball and Charlotte can create something, especially if Charlotte is able to get a top three pick in the draft and get a
Mm.
guy like Ace Bailey, who you see front row and center in New Jersey at Rutgers University. I'm going to be interested to see how that all plays out in Charlotte next season.